It's time for the big climax of Galaxy of Fear. This is book 6, The Army of Terror, and in this, Hool and his niece and nephew are on a mission to stop Project Starscream by going to the planet that it is happening on. They crash the ship and they're marooned on this planet that is a dead planet. There is no life, or is there? Meanwhile, the Rebel Alliance, of course, sends Han, Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2, and a bunch of Rebel commandos to also stop Project Starscream. But in order to keep the project going, Darth Vader himself is there. And Gog is there too. Yes, that's right. Gog is back. He's the big villain that's been in the the shadows for most of these books, although he's made his presence known by now. They thought they killed him in the previous book. Spoilers, he survived, but you would have known that if you read the previous book. Um Here's the problem with the Army of Terror. It has too many original trilogy cameos that they don't do anything again. Chewbacca doesn't do anything. Han just tells the kids not to fly the Millennium Falcon. Spoilers, they fly the Millennium Falcon, which is probably some of the best parts of the book. Um, Luke barely does anything except for give Tash some advice once. And Leia doesn't do anything. There is no point to having them. Darth Vader, on the other hand, makes sense he's there, and it's their first confrontation with Vader, although it's not a physical confrontation. He interrogates the kids, he doesn't torture them. Also, Zack and Tash are kind of stupid in this book. I don't know what happened, but they suddenly start acting more childish. They find a baby that's in like a weird pod and they start taking it around, and Hool says that's a bad idea, and they ignore Hool. I get that they needed to for the plot to go around, and the baby's not what it seems. I mean, it's clear that it's something bad, like from the immediately if you read critically in any sort of facet, you know that this baby is bad news, especially when it starts doing weird things, like growing rapidly. Um, but yeah, I will say the second half of this book's far better than the first half. The first half of this book is tedious to say the least. Nothing important really happens. It's weird. So the big creepy things in this book are the wraiths. So basically we find out Hool's backstory with the Empire, and these wraiths, we find out what they are. But wraiths are a freaky ghost type species that are they're just shadows that are like pretty unstoppable. There's a wraith that shows up in the Thrawn trilogy, so it's not like these are new. It is a Zahn creation. There is a wraith in there, but these ones act differently because they were they're they were part of an experiment against their will, and it's just weird. It's a weird book. Um, Thankfully, I will spoil this. Luke and Vader do not have a lightsaber duel. You have no idea how worried I was that we were going to have another Luke Vader confrontation. As you all know, I fundamentally hate when certain things happen that take away from the Star Wars movies. For instance, I hate when Luke and Vader meet before Empire Strikes Back. I hate when Anakin and Dooku fight between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and the same goes for Obi-Wan and Grievous. I hate those three things. I despise in Star Wars, and Dave Filoni did two of them. Alan Dean Foster, of course, did Splinter in the Mind's Eye, which there is like a retcon with that, and I won't get into that because I do plan to review Splinter in the Mind's Eye in the future. But thankfully, Luke and Vader are never really on screen together in this. If they are, they're very far apart from each other. And Vader's not even after the original trilogy characters, thus making it almost useless as to why they're there, other than this was supposed to be the end of Galaxy of Fear, and I guess John Whitman wanted the main characters back for one grand hurrah. But Galaxy of Fear sold really well, so Lucasfilm ordered another 6 books. So this is the end of the Starscream arc, pretty much. And now we're moving on to other things after this. What would I give this book? A 3 out of 5. The second half of it's more interesting than the first, and it gets kind of crazy. The first half I thought was terrible. I really thought it was bad. And like certain reveals in this are very, very predictable. And I'm not saying Galaxy of Fear are like they're super deep books. They're Goosebumps ripoffs, okay? The difference with like the previous books is like the EU connections are really nice. There's the characters are likable. In this, like DV's the only one I liked in this book in particular. Zach and Tash are just kind of stupid for the first half. The second half they get a little better, and Hool's just sad boy Hool, which I don't like reading. And then like the original trilogy characters do nothing. Vader's not in it enough. Uh, so like I don't know. It's not. It was not my favorite, and I think it's probably the worst one thus far. It's worse than the first one. So I'm very thankful that it didn't end on such a sour note and that we got another 6 of them. So I'm very curious to read those going forward. So, anyway, have a nice day.